Okay. Right, welcome to the March Hanmer Springs Community Board meeting. And health and safety in the event of an emergency, please leave the building by either the front or the back exit and assemble on the front of the building and on Mary Avenue. We have no apologies today, and our mayor is going to attend in about 10 minutes. Any announced urgent business?
I'd like to just put in, well, we've got Okakotai in this report here, but I would like to add something to that, which will probably be part of that, but no, actually should be a separate item.
Oh, okay. Any conflicts of interest today? Okay, so just to kick us off today, John Dorber from the Foursquare is going to talk to us about an exciting project.
Yes, yeah. Well, I could just take the approach to go, like, turn up, I want those two trees taken down just outside our business. But I thought the reason I wanted to come along is the reason to tell you why and what we're up to. With the Foursquares throughout New Zealand, again, huge major upgrades, going from country stores to bit more better looking stores, and new sort of stores being designed and created. These are from North Island, so they're not mucking around. They're doing some really cool stuff. And they're called Generation Store, the new Generation Stores. Generation 4 is the name of the how much the level you go for Generation 1, 2, 3, 4 to 4 has been the highest of how much you want to invest and do up your stores. So Annie and I, don't do anything by halves. We're going to do this. We're going to do it properly, and we're going to give the inside the store a major overhaul. Think of applying new icing on a cake. All been done. We've got LED lighting. Our cabinetry is all good, but the inside is we're going to give the inside a new look and feel. Here's something to just pass around. Here's some ideas of what the concept looks like. Our ceiling is going to be the same, white ceiling and the same floor. We're not going completely dark. We haven't got that industrial looks type of ceiling. And more importantly, we're doing the exterior at the same time. New signage, new paintwork, complete change out the look of the front of the store, which is exciting. But there's only sort of one dilemma. I said to Annie, if we're going to invest in quite a bit of money into the business, and especially externally, and then we aren't going to really see it. We've got a couple of trees that have just gone, I think they've just output themselves. And we're all forward to him saying, call out the front to fit with the look of the store or the rest of the street. So we just sort of what will come down, Stephen. Stacey said, let's channel it through this way for you guys. Not quite sure the procedure here of having these two trees removed. This here, when I saw this, I thought this was really cool. I quite liked, and if you ever look at our front of our footpath now, it's quite a wide walkway walking across that road. It's like an open invitation. So I thought it could be a couple of things you could consider as narrowing down the walkway across the road and putting some low level on both sides, perhaps, off the road to some low level shrubs in there, and beautify both sides and maybe channel people a bit more safely across the road without being pedestrian crossing, even though everyone thinks it is one. So anyway, I just thought we'll showcase what we're up to, and hopefully have some consideration for us with the money we're going to spend on it. Hopefully we'd like to remove the trees so we can sort of showcase a bit more of the front of the store for visitors coming into the village. Actually, you can see there's a supermarket there rather than being hidden. 9 years ago when we got there, these were the trees. Yeah. I said, man, they look great. They're spot on. They didn't grow any further than that. I think they look really cool. Hence now, of just, they've got, and I just think from a pedestrian-wise point of view, there's a lot of people, a lot of movement around that road, and I think just from a safety point of view too, perhaps we could revisit this whole lot. Some ideas.
Yeah.
Good ideas. Yeah,
I like the look of that, but when you're talking about, perhaps who would be paying for this?
yeah, that's a good question. Look, we're open, take the shrubs. Andy and I we're open because we know it's going to enhance the front of our business. We're not looking for a free, don't look for free, we're not top people to go in for free handouts for any way. We'd be open to it. If the council is open to it.
Yeah, it's road.
We're open. We're open.
Any trees are on road reserve anyway, so that's more council and community board.
Yeah.
But it's really good that we know. And yeah, looks great. Looks like you're putting in a cafe.
No, definitely not putting in a cafe. Yeah.
I wouldn't have any problem.
Yeah, no.
I wouldn't have any problem with the idea of removing those trees so long as there was a replacement, greenery put there in front, because I really didn't like that look of the one that came through.
That marker was just, I did that to show what the colour of the concept, what the stores look like.
We drove in back into town yesterday and I said to Yvonne, and I said, look, let's just pretend we don't live here, but we're coming to stay here and I want to go to the supermarket and buy something. I couldn't find
Can't
it.
find it, yeah.
You can't find it. So I drove up, you can't find it. So there's one good example.
People have got, preconceived ideas these are, what the supermarket's going to look like. I lived in Takaka for a long time. We went from a small middle of the village one to, I think it's a good idea. I agree, and the trees are outgrown where they are. And I'm happy as long as there's some vegetation and
Something like that. Do we, because it's road reserve, do we need to see some sort of plan, or would that be part of
council, I think.
the resource consent?
That goes to council.
But that they would ask for some kind of planting plan or something to replace that, would they not?
Would there not be a coordination with council and John?
That's what I'm saying, through the resource consent process.
So where do I go from here? Again, what this is something you guys for the proposal.
That's good advice. So John and Annie are the whole Foursquare nationwide are doing a new generation stores. Yeah. We've done that, and John is looking to replace the cherry trees outside with them. So he would go to council officers for resource consent.
Yeah, I would think that, just through the chair, sorry, I was late first and foremost. I would suggest probably that needs to go through Judith or Dan. So both, because that might be the regulatory framework plus the operational framework. And I would probably suggest that you send an email to both so that you actually capture that and get an understanding of what we're taking.
Madam Chair, with respect, that's how I first started. John came to me, I went to Judith. Judith went to somebody who then came back to me and said that I have to go to the community board.
Okay.
And that's how I got in here. So this is how I was trying to work out for John, how we navigate this.
I see.
One to
Right.
another.
So I think through the chair, I think when you get to the agenda item, then you can make a decision there on where you would like to go with this.
Yeah.
And what you would like to happen. And then what we would do then, I think, is take it back to the council officers and they will then tell us what needs to be done from council's perspective. Because your delegation is actually for beautification of.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas the.
Probably the action sheet will be picked up by whoever is the appropriate officer that actually needs to.
Because like you say, it's road reserve and it's actually council's delegation. But
And we'll deal with it later
so
on.
it's your delegation because of.
Yeah, just to be clear, John, and I think, indicating it, your presentation is something that we receive, and then a decision is made, not necessarily straight away, but in this case, it would involve other parties as in council.
Yeah, and look, I've got no presentation actually, so at this stage was just getting the trees removed. And but open with the council to look, I don't know, I'm no landscaper, And I can see there's going to be footpaths that going to, if you want to put things in here, some sort of footpaths are going to be cut up. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the avenues to go down this. It sounds like it's a wee bit above.
Thank
me.
you. So, yeah.
Madam Chair, just one other question I was going to ask John is, are you actually going to be altering the front of the shop, like moving the walls out or around, or it will be exactly as it is now?
Think of reapplying and icing on the cake.
Right, so it's going to be exactly as it is now.
Yeah, stripping the icing off and putting some more icing.
Just to the chair, I would imagine that if the board's in favour in what's being asked for, that will add support to the decision making that will be outside this room. So I think if he's in favour, but I think probably the action sheet will probably.
So we'll process the rest of that later on in the meeting when it comes to our agenda. So that's great.
Yeah,
Thank you. It's very exciting.
That is exciting. Yeah.
Just a very quick one. And you don't have to answer this, John. You don't have to answer it at all. You're obviously an integral part of the village, and without you, the village, I would be frightened of the long-term stability of the village without you there. An area of the land on the River Springs subdivision is earmarked for commercial development. Does that give you fear, or does it give you the promise of possible expectations or possible moving? Or wouldn't it impact on these plans? Or you don't have to answer. It's commercially
I can answer what I know.
Yeah.
And this is what I know. First of all, social work through stuff's been involved with retail and development, and that's so on the side of things. First thing to do, developers, where they develop a bit of land, they say, oh, there's going to be a supermarket there, and they just do it all the time, and because they want to sell sections.
Yeah.
And that's a lure to know that's going to be a shopping centre and a supermarket and that. So based on rough figures, this was about 10 years ago when I left Foodstuffs, for a medium-sized supermarket, which a medium size would be twice our turnover, 2.5 our turnover, you'd have to have a base population of 2,500, 3,000 people, base population, not visitors. So if the developer thinks there's someone, we spoke to someone in Fresh Choice, our opposition, and they said they're not going there. They've got be a dead date. And Foodstuffs has been now approached by the developer, and Foodstuffs saying, well, it doesn't make sense. We've already got a supermarket there, and the population doesn't warrant it. So there's a lot of developer talk. They're good at it, and they get everyone talking and so they're really great. But
probably one reason why we've already got lots of shops that have never been.
Yeah. Look, ours to build a supermarket, the turnover, I said the turnover have to be twice to three times the minimum what our turnover is, and I just don't see where that's going to come from. So and the own operated business, so they're going to borrow, I don't know, 12, 15 mil to fit it out and have a turnover of God knows. They'll be bust, they'll go bust with them. They won't get the doors open. But this is all about, for us doing this is nothing about, that could be 15, 20 years down the track. This is about keeping up with retailers. Other than supermarkets got pour money back into their business.
Fabulous.
I like
so
so
much.
much here, and I look forward to seeing a nice planting plan out the front.
I would too, through the council.
There is one more quick question. Sorry.
Yes.
What sort of timescale are you looking at? If you were, let's say a green light was given from if a green light was given from this meeting, and then it's going to go to full council or to council officers.
Yes.
When would you be hoping, if in an ideal world, you made us August?
August, we're trying to get this because we're also changing the layout of our checkouts from new counters, so we need to book in our IT team to boost us in the gaps throughout the year.
Yeah,
August is our gap. Yeah.
Cool, lovely.
Okay,
thanks very much.
cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions like that? Come see me. Go on. Or supermarkets.
Okay, well, look back to meetings of the previous meeting. That's the previous meeting. Just for members for nothing. And back to page 4 and 5.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
3.3. It was suggested this could be outside the resource consent. I did not say those words. I said, when I spoke to a council officer, I was told that if there were no water restrictions, then we could go outside our resource consent. That was what I said. I know it was mistaken in the meeting that I said that we had gone outside it, but I did not. And I know I did not unless there's proof on the recording, then I would like that noted there.
Yep.
But certainly, if you listen to the whole conversation, I definitely did talk about the fact that I had spoken to a council officer and they had told me that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
It's incorrect.
No, it wasn't incorrect. What they told me was perfectly correct. If we did not have water restrictions, we would go outside our resource consent. I didn't say we had gone outside it. I said that if we did not put the water restrictions, they told me if we did not put water restrictions on, that we could go outside our consent.
Thank you. On pages 6 and 7. And page 8. So any addresses, so any matters arising from those minutes? I have not been to the council office yet about the possible trail hub being on the side of Tex Pass Road, and I will do that this week. As soon as it's off. So hello, Hamish.
Okay, yeah. I've been to Culloden and met David Croft about the cenotaph, and I've got to be honest, it was quite daunting what he had to say. It took several years to get it off the ground. It took a huge amount of work and cost in the region of about 170,000 if you added it all up together, and probably if you put in for time for David and lots of other people, it would probably be considerably more. He thinks that you need a really devoted and targeted working group to run with it. And he's more than happy to help and advise. A lot of issues did come up, the history of the site and the history of the people memorialized by the memorial, because they found that their names and some of their history was inaccurate. So that did take a considerable amount of time. And they even at one stage had to employ professionals to absolutely confirm that their details were 100% correct, because they didn't want it cast in stone that they had got something about the memorial to specific people wrong. So there it is. I think it's what we do next. I think that it's a nice to have long-term project. I think personally, and this is my own personal opinion, that I think that it would be nice to see it renewed. And I would like to see, personally, again, a personal opinion, is it being closer to the Soldiers' Block. I think that, that is going to be our new focus of the village. And to me, it would make sense that the cenotaph and the memorial was closer to that. But that is only a personal opinion, and that I would hope would be down to some sort of public consultation and to see whether or not there were persons who were prepared to run with it and to take a strong line on it.
We'll add it to the list of legacy projects.
Yes, yeah.
It actually is in that list.
See it as there, yeah.
So, but then we also have a list of people that we're going to approach in terms of helping with the various projects. So, certainly there would be some locals and also some of if the David Croft from Colvin could help with that, that would be fantastic.
Any other comment on that? Okay, so any other matters arising from the previous minutes? 7 or 8? Okay, so I'd like to move that they're a truly an accurate record with that little amendment. Thank you very much.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favour? Carried. Rightio, so moving on to our annual budget paper. On to page 9.
Okay, so we'll start with the budget. Thanks, Madam Chair. So I don't know whether you want me to put it up on the screen or on the
Brown or
yeah, you've got
Got the paper.
we've got it on paper, so we can run with that for the time being.
Yeah.
So a couple of things here. So this, I think I would have provided in late part of last year, provided a report that sort of set out the budget, particularly as we had allowed for in the long-term plan. So this is just a continuation of that, but we have made some adjustments to things as we've gone through. So the format of the budget reports in the same form. The column that says actual, that was the actual for the year up to the end of June 24. The blue column is the current budget that we're sitting in for the current year. The pink column is what we allowed for in the long-term plan for year 2. And then the grey column is where we've made some adjustments. And there has been, we've needed to make some adjustments. We've made some adjustments to the wage split and the wage allocation. The overhead allocation has been adjusted for insurance. You can see we just had to reflect the updated cost of insurance and the forecast for this year, but also moving forward into the annual plan. And the other key thing is that the interest rates have moved, thankfully. And so we have made the assumption at this stage that the external interest rate that the council will be charged for its external debt will be 4%. And so communities that hold debt will pay an interest rate of 5%, and then any funds that you have on hand, the applicable interest rate that the council will pay comes down to 2.8%. It's all linked to that external interest rate. So that has a bearing for a number of your cost centres here that where there is a wee bit of debt.
Through the chair, Jason, when we talk about an update in the wage split, and this comes up in various situations, could you give us a bit more information on that? I'm looking particularly at that first mention there where it's actually changed from an actual 27 down to 18,300.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, that's virtually the first line there. What we do is go through our entire wage bill, our staff, all the 151 FTEs that we've got on staff, and then the team, the budget holders or the managers allocate their staff's time to where they're likely to hit. So, for instance, that wages direct line, that includes Avril as part of that. So a portion of Avril's time is funded from the amenities rate for Hanmer Springs to do all the minute taking and the development of the agendas and the likes. So that's for some of our staff, and then we've got particularly in the property team and the maintenance team, we do the same allocation, the same split, but part of the wage allocation, what that gives us is a portion of the time that they would spend in any particular area. What we're trying to do is to recover all the costs relating to the property team and all the costs relating to the maintenance team. So how we do that, we do analyse how much admin time, how much training time, how much sick leave, how much annual leave is associated with each employee, and plus all the other associated costs like vehicles, phone, clothing, those sort of things, creates a cost for that whole cost centre, and then we allocate, that gives us an idea of what we need to charge as an hourly rate for each employee, to make sure that we're not making profits, we're just breaking even on that cost centre. So, and then that goes back to an assessment of the number of hours that each of the team members would apply to the Hanmer Springs amenities, whether it's in the township or in one of the reserves. And so we've got the total hours multiplied by a charge out rate that is designed to try and recover all of that cost.
So if I look at those numbers, it's a redistribution, as you say. For example, the wage directive 18308 has been less than previously.
Yes.
But that is all balanced by the wage allocation gain of 107. So
Slight increase, yeah.
One
Yeah.
against the other.
Yeah.
One balances out the other.
It does. That's more of a coincidence than anything else, because for instance, the wage split, like I said, does include it's predominantly the governance advisors, and in the forthcoming budget, we'd actually have reduced the overall numbers by about half the FTE. So that's got an impact there. And again, the property team have got another resource in there that we didn't have in the budget. And again, it's just trying to work out of, and it is a bit of a guess when we're doing the budgets, but when we actually go through the year, each hour that they work is timesheeted to each cost centre. So if they're working in the Hanmer Springs reserves, for instance, if one of the gardeners spends an hour there, that time will be charged as part of the wage cost during the year. So it's not set in the budget and then we forget about it. It is monitored as we go. And as you've seen so far this year, and you'll see in the financial report that we've consistently underspent on the wage budget or the wage allocation for the year, which means one thing, or a couple of things that we're just not needing to spend time doing township or amenity reserve maintenance, or they're coding their time wrong. So one way or the other, we're trying to get it as accurate as possible, because it does mean that each community are paying. And the intention was that each community pays for the work that needs to be done, and if it's not being done, we shouldn't be paying for it.
So out of all that, are you saying that perhaps the charge out rate has gone down, or just that there has been less work done, or a combination of both?
It should be, if we've got less charge against you, it means that there is less work being done, less work compared to what we had budgeted for. But some of the gardens.
So the charge out rate hasn't changed.
No, but it does change as we go, because what we're trying to do is just, all we're doing is recovering the cost.
It'll do, that's fine.
Yeah. So, it is still a little bit of a point of contention, and there is a little bit more work going on around the wage allocation, because we've got a few communities that have, the numbers have created quite a larger increase than what we had in the long-term plan. So it is, there's a wee bit, the old balloon analogy that you squeeze at one end, it's going to pop out somewhere else. And the popping out somewhere else is a more difficult discussion than the squeezing in one area.
Yeah, because that wage allocation that we're down for, 40,000 at the moment, but going up to 107,000, it's quite a big jump there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I suppose the budget allowed for almost 100,000 in this year. Like I said, we haven't spent anywhere close to that in the first 8 months, but and again, it is just following that assessment done. And we're still sort of haven't quite got the process completely down pat, but it's so we are just looking at and having another look at it to make sure that the actual result does make sense, and from a logic point of view. So there's like I said, a few communities where the logic just doesn't make sense. Why? As an example, would Omaha Reserve need $10,000 worth of staff time attached to it? So that doesn't logically make sense. But the numbers that were provided to me generated that number.
Yeah, that was my biggest difficulty, is trying to understand how they relate to one another when you compare the years. Yeah, and it does happen, various years you will have a lot more work done in one particular township than the other, but in that year they will pay for that appropriate amount. When we have major storm events, for instance, there will be a lot more focus in the area that's been hit. So we'll be bringing gardeners up from Amberley to help out. You will pay for that.
Can you tell us, Jason, sorry, just below wage allocation, conferences? I see we're hosting or spending on a conference, $3,000.
I think it's particularly relevant, even though we do have a line item of, it seems to be about $3,000 every year. The forthcoming year, straight after the election, is quite important from a community board point of view. New community board members do and have done attended the community board conference.
Right.
Only 1 year on 3.
Yes. That's all right.
Yeah, we have allowed it. You can see we have allowed it in this current year, and most likely won't spend it. So it is a permanent savings that will help offset some of the debt. But in the years that you do.
It depends what's going on too. I mean, something may come up that's really important for one of us to go to. So
but that is
to have that there.
That is specifically for you as a board, rather staff time and conferences are dealt with separately. So I suppose that just gives a wee bit of a background where we're starting from. So for this current financial year, the blue column, the amenities, we know we're starting the year with just under $1 million of debt. The total rates we're receiving this year is 573,000, and other income listed there with recoveries from the hall, the pavilion, the motor camp, and the
Golf club.
The golf club. Yeah, no, I'm just thinking the motor camp might be a little bit overhead there for the budget. Anyway, another 40,000 brings up our income up to 615,000, and the total expenditure listed there, 287 for the general amenities, which includes all the wage costs that, and then 135,000 for the township, and the bulk of that is the grass mowing and street cleaning, and then the hall at 36,000, the pavilion at 15,000, and general reserves at 56,000. Plus, on top of that, we make a contribution to the weather contingency fund, and also the transfer of rate money through to the track network group. And then, because you do have a level of debt, there was 57,000 of interest. So the total expenditure for the year for this year was budgeted at 665,000, and then we had another 83,000 of other projects in there, which would mean at the end of this current financial year, you should be sitting at a debt of about 1.13 million. And that becomes the opening balance for the annual plan for next year. And so the grey column there is what we're looking at. So we've got, when we set the long-term plan this time last year, or earlier than this time last year, we did allow for an 8% increase in the rates. And the intention of that was to try and get rid of the debt, that $1 million of debt over but still allowing for projects to be done in that time.
Why is the insurance, the yellows there?
Yeah, they were just highlighted because they have, I've reforecast those numbers for this year, because when we set the budget, it was at a assumed amount. Yeah, pretty soon after the budget was approved, we renewed our insurance, and one of the issues, all the insurance numbers went up, but particularly for the buildings, it went up because we had updated valuations. So the building valuations increased by about 20%. So that did have a bearing on the ongoing premiums. And we're required to revalue our insurers want us to revalue all of our buildings every 2 years. We do it every 3 years because it fits in with our normal financial reporting cycle. But so I mean, it was just something different to what we've had in the current budget. But then it had a bearing on next year's budget because speaking to my broker, there is potential that the premiums will come down, and I don't trust that for a moment. But that's what the market's saying at the minute for material damage. So we could get some change out of what the budget is there, but until we get to that point, I'm loath to budget for anything less, and I think I've allowed for a 5% increase across the board.
Yeah, what I've seen through the chair elsewhere is that where we had a big increase in the insurance, it's now level more.
Yeah.
And that seems to be good.
Yeah, so that's for the building insurance. These are the components of council's insurance that we won't get much change. And the biggest issue that we've faced for the council was our professional indemnity insurance that went up by, we were paying 123,000 the previous year, went up to 298,000. So it was just something very difficult to manage, but knowing that it wasn't likely to come back down to the 123,000, we had to budget for it. We have to budget for it for the forthcoming year. Okay, yeah, so the yellow, where I've marked anything with yellow there, it's just reforecasting from the numbers we know for the remaining 3 months of the financial year. We did have down under projects, there we had the village hub, we had 60,000 there. Now, that's not likely to happen before the end of the financial year, so I've just pushed that into the next financial year, which is like a lot of these projects. If we don't do it in this year, depending on the need, we'll push it into the next financial year. And there's a bit of work in the Pines camp as well there. There's 52 grand worth of work. Some of it has been done, but some of it hasn't been done and may not be done by the end of the year. And again, we'll have a decision when we close off for the financial year what projects you want to carry forward. But at least they're accounted for, so they're either in the numbers this year or in the numbers for next year.
If I could ask also through the chair, in our long-term plan, we saw the need to increase the amenity rate. 5 to 8% or something like that.
That's right.
Is that reflected here?
Yeah.
It seems to be reflected in the value of the properties, what they're paying rates.
Yeah. So for the very top line there, where we've got targeted rates and the amenities, so we've got the increase line there allowed for in the long-term plan was 8%.
Yeah,
So that, based on the budget for this year, would bring us in almost 620,000 of rates, and that's just been carried forward into the annual plan. So there's certainly an option of increasing it or reducing it, but you had to have that higher level too as a
Pay off our debt.
the debt.
so it's a positive amount in 10 years.
And that will depend on all the projects that you want to achieve over as well. Okay, so apart from the wage split and the wage allocation and the insurance, the rest of the budget there is largely based on what we allowed for in the long-term plan, and we back to our staff to make sure that any of the underlying assumptions that they made when they prepared last year's budget, whether they had changed in the interim, and they were perhaps given a bit of a there won't be any changes. If there are changes, they're going to come down. So of course there's no changes, but that was sort of on the basis that, and I'll get onto that when we talk about the council as a whole, that we were looking at a 14.5% increase in the overall rates for council for this financial year, all part of the long-term plan, but that was predicated by the large increase in the roading rate. Now that has come back substantially, but I can talk about that when we go. But it was sort of pretty much eyeballing all of their stuff, so there won't be, there won't be substantive increases to the work. If there is, we'll have to find compensating variances to make up for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I'll whip through it relatively quickly, but I suppose the end result for us for the forthcoming year is the total revenue is set around the 650,000, and total expenditure is about, total operating expenditure is about 650,000. So you're sort of getting the operating income and operating expenditure in line, and as we allow for another 8% increase in the rates next year, we'll get a chance to be able to knock off some of that debt.
Yeah.
And the only project we've got listed there is just carrying forward the Village Hub project from the previous year. Okay, we can certainly come back to sort of final decisions about the budget at the end. If we just go through the rest of the budget report. Page 11 is the roadside construction account. And again, I've got, for this current year, we're starting the year with $80,000 of debt, but pulling in 37,000 of rates. Because there's a wee bit of debt, there's 4,500 of interest. And in the current budget or the current forecast, we were looking to spend about 75,000 in street lighting. And based on the forecast from the program team, they were predicting we'll only spend about 12.5 before the end of this financial year. So, as was sort of the case previously, any unspent money, we just carry it forward into next year to make sure that, and that's why instead of having a $25,000 budget in the annual plan column, the grey column there, we've got an $87,000 budget, which is the unspent 62,000 plus the budget for the next financial year. Okay.
Just on that line, we've not actually spent anything over the last 2, if not 3 years.
That's right, yeah.
So that's how it's accumulated.
Yeah, and as requested, let's make sure that that budget is still there to do some more work, but there's only a small amount that can be achieved based on the forecast provided to me for this financial year. So, yeah, additional amount or unspent amount will just lob on to the budget we've got for next year. And again, we might get to the end of this financial year and actually have spent that 75,000. So we will adjust the budget moving forward, or adjust the forecast. Page 12 is the medical centre and the doctor's house. So the medical centre, for this financial year, we're looking to be hold a debt of about 180,000. Then that flows through to the opening balance for next year. And then just some adjustments. The wage allocation has been adjusted. The insurance cost has been adjusted. So pulling in rate money of almost 32,000. We've got about 10,500 of rental from the medical centre, and then 28,000 of operating expenditure being the little bit in salaries, contractors' rates, R&M and insurance, as well as interest on the $180,000 of debt. So at the end of June 26, we're predicting that account will be would have paid off another $14,000 or $15,000 off the debt.
Yeah. Very quick one, Jason. I'm sure it's just a typo. On projects on the medical buildings, you've got heat pumps by 10.
Yeah. Sorry, that is. I think there's 10 heat pumps in the medical centre, and the intention was to essentially replace one or two of them every year. Now we won't.
I'm going to say, make it 11 and get me one.
I think over the long-term plan, we're tended to replace all of them, and it's just largely based on age. So there would have been a couple allowed for in the current year. It is largely a desktop exercise. We go and inspect them, and there'll be another 2 years with that one. So we'll just adjust the
So it could read 10-year replacement plan.
Yeah. Then the doctor's house, you've got a higher rate associated with the doctor's house. So we pulled down about 52,000 per annum, and then the rental from the doctor's house is about 6,500, and our total expenditure including an increased insurance is about 20,000. And again, we've got a couple of items through. A new oven is scheduled to be replaced in the 25-26 year, and again this year we've got some heat pump replacements scheduled, but again they'll be inspected, and if they've got more life, they won't be replaced just for the sake of meeting what it says in the budget. So with that one, because you've got a higher rate, you're actually getting rid of the debt quicker than the medical centre debt. So at the end of June, we're looking at that debt being about 113,000, and I think after that we've probably only got about three more years of operating for it to get rid of the debt completely. Completely. And at that point, I can't recall what we determined in the long-term plan, whether we kept total rate for medical buildings at the same level and just put some more into replacing, getting rid of the debt on the medical centre. But
that was my memory.
Yeah, it will be the next long-term plan. That, we will have a bit more certainty about what needs to be done. But neither of those items we're predicting any increase in the rates, just what we've been currently paying will be repaid. Okay, the page 13 is the medical sector. Sorry, the development contributions, a few that we've still got running. So we've got the Township Development Contribution Fund, and again we do have relatively high levels of development contributions predicted, and they haven't quite come to fruition yet, but there's development happening. It's just how the titles will be raised and we can collect the relevant DCs.
But they, if I could ask through the chair, just to clarify, that gets collected when the site has been sold, is it?
No, when the
Certificates issued.
developers get title. That's
When it gets titled.
title here.
How much did we actually move out of that account into our amenity account?
This was some years ago. I think it was about 500,000. It was just
Yes, it was.
it was a large amount, but yeah, we're still got to be trying to collect it. And if there is all these new sections come on board, it will be great. But they unfortunately have been dribbling in for a little while.
How many more sections are there on top of what's predicted here? How many more subdivisions?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I can go in and find it. But I think we are still collecting these contributions for another, until at least the next long-term plan. So we've got another couple of years on top of this one.
I don't know. I was just thinking, why is that money being paid off by the amenity rate when in actual fact it could and should be in that development contribution fund?
Like the 500,000 that we transferred over.
Or at least some of that. I mean, I know we've paid some off already, but.
Yeah, I think certainly previous community boards saw it as a bit of
We need to find some way of making it.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand what happened, but I'm like, the predictions from way back when the fund was set up are actually coming to fruition now in the time that was anticipated, although we've waited a long time for it. And now we're still paying that off through the amenity rate when it could get paid off through this. But we can only take up to the amount that's in that fund. We can't take back that 500,000 as a development contribution unless we put that money back into that fund, if it was possible. And Hamish has got something to say about that.
No, the development contributions in general, there's a requirement for the development contributions to fund things that are required for growth. Not back fund stuff that's already been done, number one. And number two, you have to figure out what proportion of it is for growth and what proportion of it provides a benefit to the existing ratepayers.
Yeah.
And I know that there was a different interpretation of that in the day when that was set up. But it was all going to be paid for out of development contributions, but that's not actually legal.
So what you're saying is that that 500,000 that was taken out because it wasn't legal.
No, it was taken out because the interest costs were so great that they're actually the debt was going up every year on that project, and so the community board made a pragmatic decision to utilise rates money to do that.
Yeah.
If we were to do that project again today,
Just a township upgrade.
Yep.
Yep.
I'd have very significant concerns about how much it was funded from development contributions.
Yeah.
Versus the benefit to existing ratepayers.
Over time.
Yeah. And then we
went through a long period. We were very positive or optimistically, is the way probably to put it, that development contribution was going to carry on barreling on, and it didn't.
No.
So we went for a long period where very little came from development.
Yeah, no, I understand that. There was an urban growth strategy that was done, and the development contribution and the work that was done was based on that urban urban growth, but it was just running through my head that so much was taken out. Could some of that be reversed under these circumstances, or it's just really too hard now?
Yeah, I think you would struggle to justify it. I mean,
Yeah.
how much life is left in the township redevelopment that was done, how long ago? 15 years ago now?
So,
Yeah.
How much life?
Oh, it's probably 25 years ago.
Yeah.
no, it was about.
20, it was just soon after I got you.
The most recent one was.
Longer than that.
And
Longer
so
than
how much
that.
life is left in that you ratepayers are going to benefit from? How much benefit are they going to get from it?
Well, I mean, I guess you just have to look at the life of it, don't you? Like, is it got a 20-year life or a 10-year life?
Those development contributions are going to be needed for water projects and things like that, I'm sure.
No, separate development
They are.
contributions for water projects and that sort of thing, so there's a specific development contribution for that project. And I think it was based on some relatively aggressive growth numbers.
It was.
And it didn't hit the growth. The debt in that account was getting worse and worse. It was always going to pull back the ratepayers eventually. And so this community will make the pragmatic to tip some more money into it to stop it going backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I understand all that. I accepted that. I was wondering, it was going through my head, was there that opportunity to bring some of that back? But
No,
it's not. It's okay.
Look at future projects that
Yeah.
you're doing that are growth related
Yes,
and say what proportion of this should be paid for by those future ratepayers. What else are you going to need in the village because of the growth that you're experiencing here now?
That's right.
So, you know,
so,
forward-looking development contributions. Absolutely.
so just while you're on that subject then, that town centre redevelopment, it was like tidying up things that we needed, like for instance, because there was a lot more people coming to town, we did paving and we did more paths and that kind of thing. So that would still be considered because of the growth, or and is it tied to the growth of numbers that live here, or is it tied to the growth, for instance, of the pools bringing in more people, or?
Some growth in the number of sections here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, when we did the work, coincided with the financial crisis and the difficult development just slowed most to a crawl if not stopped completely.
So would we discuss that again when we do LTP, any new development contributions?
Yep.
Right.
So when you look at your projects, you need to say, yes, that project is partly attributable to growth. And then we'll go away and do the numbers on it and say, well, this is the growth projection. This is where we think that's it. So we'll have a discussion about that and go forward from there.
Right. Are there on our list subdivisions in the pipeline?
I'm not aware of at the moment.
Right.
I'm just worried about missing out.
Oh,
Well, we'll get this one paid off first and then we'll see how we go.
A fund that just cranks out money.
no,
There to fund the growth projects that you have.
I understand that.
Plan. So you're not missing out on anything if you've got those projects in your plan.
no, I was just wondering if there was.
I know, but
development over the road
We went
from Riverside or whatever it's called.
But there are some projects coming up that perhaps might be questionable as to whether we could have development contribution funds for them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, let's hear about them and.
But we don't have that opportunity until the long term.
It's after 3 years, you have that opportunity.
That's right. So that's
The ideal time to do it is during the long-term plan, but if there is something that becomes very, well, you'd have to argue whether if it's an urgent thing that it's there for future growth. We didn't know there was, major major subdivision happening that was going to mean you were going to need to buy more land to do more parks and the likes. Yeah, we could look at that. Yeah, as and when required, we can. It does mean create an amendment to the long-term plan. And that, yeah, there's a few
So that is a possibility too, if needed. Thank you.
That, yeah, we'll be having this discussion again. Yeah, the long annual plan next year, but then the long-term plans almost immediately straight after. So that's really the chance to have a real crack at it.
Thank you.
Okay, and we've got the domain decent fund there. Just building up again under the current long-term plan. I think it was year 5 that we were predicting to do the major project attached to those works. And then the walkway fund and the medical centre fund, this is just closing those out, transferring the money into either the amenities account or the medical centre account by the end of the year. Then page 14 and 15 are just the various special funds that you hold. So we've got the Ferry Bridge Preservation Fund sitting there. We've got the Tourism Fund, again, built up from the bungee jump royalties. Now for the Tourism Fund this year, we've started the year with 35,000 in the bank, budgeting to receive another 4,000 in the bungee jump royalties and about 1,200 in interest. We did in the long-term plan have 30,000 assigned for a project on that. Now, that hasn't been spent today, and it may not be spent.
So do we understand that 30,000 has not been spent, so going forward it's still there?
If it's a savings this year, instead of a closing balance or opening balance for this year of 10,000 will be 40,000, and then you've got that money there. So whether you actively carry forward the project to do the 30,000 project or whatever it ends up being when we close off for the financial year, but it sits there, it's ring fence for
the project is carried forward because it's in the year 10 of the long-term plan.
Yep.
But it's not likely to be spent this year.
No, and I think there was two tranches. There was a bit in this year and a bit in year 10.
So if it's only year 10, why don't we just carry it as 34 through?
Yeah, well, I think most likely we'll end up. Right, in my page 20 of the report, we've got the fund there, and we don't actually have a capital budget beside it. So that's probably, whether that is a number that 30,000 shouldn't be there and it should be zero and it just builds up from there. Either way, there won't be work being done on it this financial year, and
yeah,
it'll end up being,
but the money just sits there. That's fine.
Yeah. But I'll make that change anyway to my draft budgets.
Because you might get lost on it.
But that will just result in a little bit more interest allowed for the next financial year, because instead of interest on $10,000, there'll be interest on $40,000. Okay, the Track Network Group Fund, there currently we've got an opening balance of 26,000 with rate money coming into this of 67,500, the Heritage Forest Grant, some track levies and some interest, and then total expenditure we've got budgeted for is 73,000, resulting in the balance in the account at the end of the year being roughly the same as what we started with, and that just flows through to the grey column, the annual plan column, having an opening balance of 27,000, and then continuing with the 67,500 plus a little bit of inflation coming from the amenities account into this account, And then the expenditure going out both in staff time and contractors and materials. So again, it's sort of done on the basis that the money coming in is budgeted to be spent at the same level as the money going out. And similarly with a contingency fund of $10,000 from the amenities rate into this fund and use it when it's required. So it continues to build up. But again, from a budget point of view, we've got 10,000 plus a little bit of interest and expenditure going out at 10,000, the same amount. But in reality, it builds up to when it's needed for a specific.
It may not be needed.
It may not be needed, but it's that fund in case we have the massive weather bomb that we need to spend a lot of.
There's a situation with the track network group where they've spent a lot more staff time this year because it's been so wet. A lot of growth. And so we've come to a couple of projects at the end of the financial year that there's no money for in the staff time.
Right.
To do the work.
Okay.
Is it possible to be, I don't know if we can transfer some of the weather contingency money over. I mean, it's not a storm, it's not a drought.
I understood that's what some of that 9,400.
That was last year, yeah, when we had that storm.
But this isn't a storm. This is just because there's just so much growth with blackberry and broom and everything because it's been so wet. So the maintenance crew have spent an inordinate amount of time weed eating and
I thought we talked about that.
We talked about it at the last TNG, but I don't think we actioned anything about it, so.
These are your funds at your discretion and each time, I mean, it's built up for a purpose. If there is there's no hard and fast rules about the funds that were created by you, just using amenities money. You can pull it back into the amenities account and use it any way you like. It's not a targeted rate for a specific purpose. It was money from amenities rate for that general purpose anyway. So you can use it at will.
Aren't you saying though that there's a situation where that fund will be in debt because of the cost of what has been done?
No, it's not in debt. It's just some things are on hold, that's all. And so I was just exploring the possibility of, if I had a discussion with the council officer involved, if there was a need to finish off a couple of projects that are half finished this financial year, and we were short of money because the maintenance team has spent so much time cutting back growth, that maybe, we could look at.
We do have a contingency fund as well, don't we?
Well,
That's it. There's just on page 7, we did talk about this and at our community board meeting last time. And my recollection was, although it doesn't say anything here, was that there was an agreement to use that money for the weather contingency fund for some of those projects because they had done an unusual amount of work because of the weather that we'd had.
Well, if the board's happy, I'll have that discussion with the council officer involved and see what the shortfall is. Okay, and
I don't,
back to everybody.
to be honest, I don't recall that conversation.
Yeah.
And just off the top of your head, you've got a figure in mind?
No.
We didn't talk about a figure that I do.
No, we didn't say that figure.
We definitely did talk about it because it's there in the minutes, but just how far and when, I don't know.
But I'll find out.
We can certainly do anything retrospectively as well. So, we get to the end of the year and realise, you want to be able to know that you've got the funds to do it.
Yeah.
But, we can always go back and apply, 20,000 from the contingency fund back into the track network group if you wanted to at any stage.
I'm certainly do it that way, that bring this weather contingency down too much because of such a storm is likely at some stage.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. The next one, the pavilion fund. Again, it's there's this money was transferred from the contestable fund a few years ago, just to put it in a pot to do some work on the pavilion, and the benefit of doing that was letting, attracted interest and let that grow. Whereas the following, on the following page, we've got right at the bottom there, the contestable fund. It is money that comes in from the council at 10,000 per annum. And then the intention has always been originally to be used in the year that it was allocated. And as a result, there hasn't been any interest component that's been attached to it. But in reality, most communities let the fund build up for a few years to do a major project, because you can do a bit with $10,000, you can do a lot more with $40,000 or $50,000.
Hmm.
And again, the purpose of that fund was to let it build up and to assist with the funding of another source of funding for the pavilion that needs to be done, or whatever that major project is relating to that we're collecting financial development contributions for. The pavilion fund will help with that, and the contestable fund will help as well. So it's not all coming, your share of it coming from the amenities account. Okay, just to closer to.
It's that fund,
Yeah.
the replacement footbridge. What happens to the old bridge that was taken away? Where's that been put?
You're asking me a question I just cannot answer.
It wasn't in very good condition, so I would imagine that it'll be scrapped.
Okay.
Very common.
So, on top of it, that's the closer loop. We've got the staff house fund. There's still some funds in there, but there are some other projects that perhaps are linked to that. And so the final page on page 16 of the budget plan is the council had an opportunity to look at the council workshop earlier in March, and as I mentioned earlier, we were looking at in the long-term plan, a rate increase of 14.5%, an average rate increase, and that was done substantially because of the increase in roading. And the roading rates, we've pared that back. We're sort of gone back to sort of largely match funding with a bit extra funding from ratepayers. What NZTA are prepared to fund in subsidies. So what this schedule is trying to do is, for our dozen or so indicated properties for Hanmer Springs, the blue column there is the actual rates charged for this current year. So a $990,000 dwelling in Hanmer Springs will be paying $4,300. The purple or pinky, whatever colour that is, we, based on the long-term plan, with that 14.5% increase, average increase, that same property was looking to be paying
$600.
Yeah, almost $600 more. So that was a 13.84% increase. But as we move forward, based on slightly reduced, well, the roading rate coming down substantially, and the overall rate increase, what the council saw the other day was 3.32% rather than 14.5%. It will move a little bit from that, because we've got a couple of one community that has decided to increase their amenities rate, which flows through to the overall rate increase. It's probably going to sit around between 3.4 and 3.7. But this just gives you a bit of an indication of what the specific increases will be for individual properties in Hanmer Springs. So there'd be sort of a standard increase of about 4.5% for the dwellings within the township, and then higher value properties outside the urban boundaries, will have a lesser increase. And that does take into account that we do have, in the background part of this is a sort of 6.5% increase in our water rates. That was on top of a 21% increase in water rates last time. And that is, we are still staging in the implementation of fund and depreciation for our three waters. So, in the background, there are some chunky increases. So everything else is kept relatively constant. Madam Chair, I suppose, what the intention is that the council will be looking at its draft budgets next in a council meeting next Tuesday. And I suppose if there's any deviation from what I've provided here, they want to adjust some of the costs, or particularly adjust any of the rate increases allowed for. It's really just you got that opportunity now. From here, it will go into that draft budget for the council to review on Tuesday. From there, we'll be developing a consultation document of sorts to go out at the end of April out for submissions, and we've got a month long period of submission hearings of consultation, then submission hearings the early part of June. And things change as we go through. So if there's something that's picked up, in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we should have that in the budget. We've got a chance to bring it through as a submission to the annual plan, and the council make adjustments accordingly. For its final adoption at the end of June with the rate strike at that point.
I didn't see anything as we went through that, so only if there's something else comes up.
Like Alice, I think what you've laid out here is what we're and there's no reason to change that will reflect on the long-term plan.
I can't see any reason at this stage unless something does pop up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But to me, that's what we planned, and it's working out at this stage.
Yeah.
You could, of course, bring forward, like the state highway, so I'll forget it.
Need to move that. We recommend the budget.
Yeah, that's it.
So I would like to move that the board supports this budget to go forward to council.
Second.
Thank you, Alice. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Great lot of work. Oh my goodness. Should be on the statements. Okay. So, financial report then.
Right, you've got that again. So page 18. The 8 months to the end of February. I just know there's perhaps just a wee bit of a mismatch between the opening balance here and what I have in my budget report, but I'll get that rectified. On the basis that it's around that $1 million debt mark we've started the financial year with. The rates that have come in so far, 327,000, and other incomes being the 26,000, and then the total expenditure. So the total revenue first 8 months is 553,000, and total expenditure is 305,000. Sorry. So we've actually lobbed off about $50,000 of that debt for the year, but key variance sit in mainly in that wage component. So as you said, it is a lot lower than what we had allowed for in the budget. So we have, and it's just that is the way the time has been costed based on the guys' timesheets. So I don't have an identifiable reason for it. There has been, a bit more work done in the track network, so some of the others spend a bit more time in that area. It is, we've had this trend for the full year so far. And there's a few, as mentioned earlier, there's a few capital projects, particularly in the reserve there around ablution blocks and the lights at the Pines Camp, that not much of that has been spent to date. And we did have the village hub as part of the Hanmer Springs Township expenditure of 60,000 for the year. None of that was budgeted so far for the first 8 months, but we certainly haven't spent any of that either. So they will be savings for the current financial year, but they may just flow through to the next financial year.
They will.
Yeah.
May.
And then the next sections are track network group. So we started the year with 26,000 in the bank. So far, we've allocated 45,000, 45,000 of the total rates for the year, and the $5,000 grant we receive from the Heritage Forest Trust that the community board pays for them first, and then they pay.
This has been going on for years.
Yeah. And then the total cost there, and as we mentioned, we're certainly up on the budget for staff costs, and there's a couple of external costs attached to that, and there's that full breakdown on page 22 of what the movements of that account have been over the 8 months. So we've allowed, looking at page 22 because it's so relevant. So we've got the rate money, the $5,000 being essentially 2/3 of the total budget for materials, and then for other funds, other funding of we have $60,000 of rate money in there. 40,000 has been allocated so far, the Heritage Forest grant, and then the external expenditures just on 11,500, and the three items that highlighted there, and then the allocation from of wages over the 8 months, leaving a balance of just under 30,000, which does match up to page 18. Page 19 is about the weather contingency fund that's sitting on 37,000 at the end of February. Roadside construction account sitting at a debt of 58,000, and the budget did allow for 75,000 to be spent in this financial year, but the forecasts are suggesting that would be 5,500 in the medical centre and the medical doctor's house, but with some of the debts being paid off. We've got the development contribution fund for the township, which is certainly the level of DCs received so far this year is a lot lower than what we had budgeted for. It's all around timing. The walkway fund, which will transfer into the amenities, page 20. Quite the same flow as for budget report. We've got the preservation fund and the tourism fund, as we expect. The main upgrade DC fund with 178,000. The pavilion fund with 26, the contestable fund was 71, and the staff house fund at the end of February had 76,000 in it. And then page 21 is the contestable fund balance. Page 22, we've talked about the technical group, and then page 23 is just the assessment of the projects, to date. So we had total projects, predicted year one of the long-term plan of 365,000. And at the end of February, it's been 88,000, and the bulk of that is in, sitting in the, Brook Dawson staff, all funded from the Staff House Fund. So out of that balance, we've still got, with actually 3 months left, 277,000 still to be spent, but we know that perhaps that the village hub won't be completed, and some of the other building work might not be completed by the end of the year either.
Can I ask through the chair, note the two spent ones, the 63,000 and 20,818. Where has it been spent on Brook Dawson?
Playground.
Playground and the bridge.
That's right.
What is the remaining on money? So 63,000 spent on the playground, but we budgeted 80,000. What will happen to the 16,700?
Still sits in the Staff House Fund.
I'll just go sit there.
Yeah, it's a separate fund.
That is the cost to date. I don't know whether there's still more to occur. But yeah, we'll sit in the Staff House Fund, and that is
Whatever's left.
Yeah, and the bridge was 60, not 40.
So that's gone.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have to answer any other questions.
Just right. I'd like to move that we accept that financial report. Thank you.
I'll second. No,
You'll move that.
you do that.
Okay. Second. Oh, Tom. Right. Fabulous. All in favour? Okay. Carried. On your own. So we are having a discussion about governance.
Oh. Are we going to go back to the cherry tree?
Oh, the territory removal, yes, we will do that first. Okay. So on page 26, 27, so we had a short presentation from John Dorber about some upgrades that this Foursquare group are doing nationwide, and they wish to upgrade the Hanmer Springs store, which is great. And they've come to the board about wanting to remove the 2 cherry trees which are on road to the store, because that clashes with the with what they wish to do. They feel the trees have got too big. So I'll take that all as read by everybody and open up for conversation.
I'll start. I would agree with them. I think that the trees, I would be happy. I'd have someone who always likes to protect the trees. I think in this case, I think it's reasonable that the cherry trees be removed, but must be replaced by some other planting. And I would like to see the planting plan come forward to us, so they communicate with the correct people at council. Certainly like to see that. And I guess there's going to be some discussion at some stage about who and how this is paid for as well, because some of it may be our cost, some of it may be theirs. So I'd like to
I'd
hear about
like to
that.
see it on that basis, and it is a shared cost.
Yes.
Chris?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I said, we drove in yesterday, you can't see the supermarket.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Yeah, it's always a shame, but the trees aren't actually used currently for like sitting under for shade or anything. They're just, yeah. Tom?
Yeah, I think the trees should go and we should encourage and support their expansion and modernisation as quickly as possible. And I don't suppose the landscaping of that road reserve needs to be done simultaneously. The trees, I think, probably in their works need to be done first, and then we've probably got a little bit of time up our sleeves to work out who, what and how we do some sort of landscaping there. I'm thinking that they showed some benches there that we perhaps involve the men's shed and get some reasonably priced homemade timber benches possibly at that point, although there are a lot of benches and seating area bang opposite, so maybe it's not necessary.
I think it's more the foliage that you.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I would definitely like to see, I agree with what Tom's saying, that, you know, like they need to do their part first, but I think that it does need to happen in conjunction. I wouldn't like to see it put off for any great length of time, and I would certainly like to see a planting plan. I mean, we need to plan what we might be going to have to input into this as well. So I think some sort of planting plan, costs and cost sharing needs to come forward when they discuss this with council. It needs to come back to us sooner rather than later.
Madam Chair, can I speak to this? Well, like I agree that you do the council, but you've also got the opportunity with the school wanting to donate some shrubs, plants,
Yeah,
or whatever, with their trees coming down shortly. Maybe that's where we can utilise some of that.
with this.
Because both the school and the four squares seem very open to whatever they need that things done. And if they're both supporting each other in community projects, the four squares support the school and a hell of a lot of stuff that they do and other community projects. It would be nice, you know, the school tries to go back to the four square perhaps, because it's going to benefit the community in the long run too, because it's not just going to be there. Just, and like John was saying, he's not a landscaper by any means, so any kind of helpful input into what kind of plants, especially if they're less maintenance or whatever, that would be greatly appreciated for him, rather than letting it to them kind of plants and stuff in weird. There are people that could help them, Chris. You know, people with plants and landscaping, you know, you have your thing with your grasses and whatnot, but whether or not there's something.
Yeah, I think we've got an opportunity to do something really nice here. We take your time about it.
Yeah.
We don't rush them. Because there is a highlight of walking into town.
Yeah.
We don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah.
So I think if it takes a little bit longer to get it right, it's probably worth it a little bit longer.
No, I agree, all these contributions are great, but I think the plan needs to be a professional
Oh, yes.
landscape plan that needs to come back through this and sure bring in all those ones who want to help.
I think generally the board supports the initiative.
Yeah.
Happy to have John and Edie developing that business further. It's a centre for the village and they, you know, they do a lot for the village. So I think, you know, that all it really can say is that the board supports the initiative and passes it on to council for whatever.
Do we need to make it as a recommendation because it's removing trees? Yeah. I'll move that
I think it's an information item rather than a decision item.
Hamish just said, yes, we do.
We need to.
Be useful, the one that.
Okay. We'll make that then, Alice.
So I will move that the board agrees to the removal of those trees, that we would like to see a planting plan put in place for when the changes are made at the Four Square.
Shared cost basis.
On a shared cost basis, yeah. That's fine.
So I'll second all of that. Seconded by Michael, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Rightio. So, well, discussion items. That's what I want structure. So we want to go through the rest of everything else first. So our action check.
Through the chair, you did have this page as well with the update from Tom and Chorus.
Oh, okay, radio. I thought that's what Alice had done. Sorry,
No, we missed.
I missed a page. I missed a page.
Actually, there's a very slight typo in that summary there. It's regarding the connection of rural properties to Wi-Fi fibre and non-rural. Okay,
So is that your email?
probably, well, yeah, it may well be my mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a bee in my bonnet for a little while, actually. Rural properties being charged an absolute fortune for connection to the fibre when it means so much to both the farmers and their children and their families. You know, I really am concerned about that. So I have been in touch with Chorus on and off now for well over a year. And they promised me that they would do something, and then they appeared not to. But I've got an email, it arrived this morning fortuitously. So the original quote for the forest camp, for example, was 100,000 to connect to
For Wi-Fi.
for full fibre broadband. Now, Chorus promised that they would look at it, and they also promised that they would contribute towards this and what have you, and they looked as though they would help. And they've come up with the quote this morning of $10,000 for the forest camp. So we've got an amazing discount. It brings it down to manageable proportions now, because that's actually cheaper than Starlink for the forest camp. So, you know, that's and I think well, it's such a good deal. But I think that what we should do, we or I should do, is to continue working with Chorus to try to get this and you know, to get this put into place for other rural properties that would benefit it. And I do look at it coming from the point of view of the children and the children's education, because, you know, I think that that's really important. But commercially for dairy farmers, it'll be a game changer at that sort of price reduction. So, yeah, just not much more I'm saying than that, really.
I mean, they've got competition with the Starlink, so they are going to have to change their
Yeah.
pricing structure, aren't they?
They are.
Otherwise, they're going to completely miss out.
Mhm.
I mean, not that I want
You don't want to support Starlink.
to Elon Musk.
And so, yeah, we'll support Chorus as much as we can.
Yeah, tell them we'd love to support them rather than Starlink. Yeah.
And I think probably the way forward is to sort of contact the rural community and to see who would be interested and see, I think, if we can do anything on their behalf, because having got that door open a little bit now, I think,
Put a foot in it.
yeah.
The other roads.
So is that something you're going to follow up? Or the board?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will follow up. I'll probably look towards one of the farming members of the council to work with us, that we can use that door open to the benefit of the whole community.
I've got a contact for Federated Farmers.
Mm.
You want to send the email?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that was that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Follow the action sheet. Have signage, so I will I have discussed with Mark. I'm happy to go and discuss with the council regarding the possibility of using that site on Jack's Place Road. That I will do this week. So hopefully we get to maybe have that ready for spring, should be good. Item number 2.
Ongoing.
Yeah, ongoing. Busy. Item number 3. Ongoing. Alice, do you have something about that?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's right, no, we're just waiting for property development.
Just I guess I was just going to say, we've been passing this over again and again. I know there were some reasons for it, but we do need to get on with some of those lighting issues. I thought we had, like, for instance, organised that Rippengale Road one. We'd been given a plan to look at and we'd agreed to it.
Yeah, it says work is scheduled to begin in the next few months. So it's there.
Yes, I know it says that, but then I was just going back to the budget where we were told that that may not happen.
No.
Right, fine.
I don't think that particular one is urgent. I mean, just, it's my opinion, driving through that intersection in the dark at least a couple of times a day. It's pretty good. Okay,
reason.
there's 7A tidy up is happening.
Well, it seems.
Yeah.
I saw a theodolite there this afternoon.
We engaged a contractor and we've now put them on hold again because it's our understanding that the members on board that didn't want to go ahead with what's planned.
Who?
And then, so, there was that discussion about it should be curb and channel.
Yes.
And then I had a discussion with you, Chris, and I couldn't get hold of you, Alice. And with Dan, and we decided, because if you go with curb and channel, you're going to have to wait for the road to be reprofiled by Transit New Zealand. And there's a couple of questions there about where the drainage will go. My opinion is we needed to get that tidied up now for winter, and Dan, go ahead. He said, they're parked down the road waiting. They will go, yes.
Yes.
So are they going to do the planting as well, or just sorting out
Tussocks
drainage?
and the
Tussocks and drainage.
tussocks and chip. Yeah, like we discussed that day we went down there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go.
Yeah, no, I had heard that there was a rumble about it, but I haven't heard any more, so thank you.
Okay, so have got some going on to the next item, number 5, part of one of our legacy projects.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, that's that piece of paper that I sent around. For the 150-year anniversary.
Yeah, I'll pass you one over.
Sorry, I only typed this up this morning. So Stacey and Tom and I meet and talked about just starting plan on where we might go. So there's about 5 items there we sort of thought would be good legacy projects. I have to say number 5 was actually one that Chris Huey mentioned to me after we had our meeting. But I thought I would add that in there because this is all just discussion at this point. So in terms of the State Highway 7A turnoff, there's been discussion about whether NZTA have plans to alter that intersection, because it is difficult if you're coming from Lewis Pass End to turn into that road. So then when you move down to number 4, NZTA, one of the things we thought about was also the painting of the ferry bridge and straightening of the bends south of Hanmer, where there's been at least 6 deaths in recent years. So Tom is going to ask someone from NZTA, or has asked someone from NZTA, to come and speak with us hopefully at our next meeting. And so we can talk to them about all of those points, the State Highway 7A turn off, the straightening of those bends, painting of the ferry bridge. The cenotaph, we've already
We can
spoken.
talk about the bend south of Hanmer Springs,
The 80K bends just south of,
South of Marble Point,
yeah,
south of the quarry,
south of.
the quarry.
Okay.
So I can remember, I think I mentioned it last time, I can remember a discussion with NZTA a long time ago when they did the straightening just at our turn off. The NZTA people said then that there would be a great way to sort out those bends, and pointed out where that would go. Roughly, it's where the power lines go up over there's a sort of a gap in the hill and the power lines go up over there. And he pointed that out and said that would be a great way to get rid of those dangerous bends. And I mean, even since he said that, there's been those 6 deaths. So
It's on private land.
it is, yes. It is. But anyway, it'll be interesting to talk to them. It may or may not be a possibility, but certainly be of some interest. It is, it is a dangerous part of the road. So that's 1 and 4. Number 2, we've already talked about cenotaph. So we'll just keep looking at that, working on that, looking for people who want to be involved in that, because I'm pretty sure there'll be some members of the community that are. The avenue, design and funding ideas, discuss this with council. It's a local reserve, but it's substantially used by visitors to the town. So I guess we'll just keep on discussing that, keep on looking at what we can do. It certainly needs more of an upgrade now. It is getting, it's got to be at least 30 years since the last upgrade there was done. There's been a minor upgrade since, but it's getting a bit of a tired look. And then the suggestion that Chris had, so he might like to talk to that, is about the lighting of the pathway up Conacook Hill, and like similar to the concept about the Redwood Path in Rotorua, which is pretty cool if you've ever done that. So those are the legacy projects. And then there was a list of contacts of people who might like to hold an anniversary event or turn their annual event into part of the celebration for the year. Back in 1983, when there was the 100-year anniversary, I know St John's did it was like a dress up in 1833 costume, 1890, whatever year it was. Dress up in old costume, and that was all done out at St Helens and using the lawns out there. But the pools put on some anniversary projects as well. So I guess, you know, there is a number of groups there that we've thought of, and if anyone can think of any others, we'll add that to the list at the relevant time. We'll write to these people or contact them and ask them, you know, what they would like to see for that, if there's something they would like to contribute for an activity or whatever for those celebrations. So that's about it from me. Nice.
Okay, just on technicality, Rainier have sold their interest in the forest to a company called Rohatyn, Rohatyn.
So there we go. Rainier have sold out
To a
company called
European venture capitalists called Rohatyn, Rohatyn.
Is this the freehold lease?
It is their forestry rights.
Cutting Rice.
That was on the 14th of March, 10 days ago. Oh.
phone there, phone call back from them.
What does it cost? Okay, then.
I think it will, in the short term, they're committed to forestry and they're committed to New Zealand. So in the short term, I don't think anything will change. I think longer term, we may see a slightly change in their plans, but at the moment, I don't think in the short term. I think it's an opportunity for us to perhaps make contact with them to establish some sort of links. And probably a good opportunity to have a word with them about permanent leases, licenses for our tracks to go in there as well. It depends on how much they're delegated by Ngāi Tahu to manage those tracks and whether they're in a position to be able to give us permanent rights or long-term rights over those tracks.
We've had a good relationship with Ryanair.
Yeah.
We've been very lucky with them.
I'd like to think that that could continue with the new leasing. We might need to do some groundwork there.
Yes, yeah, I think so, yeah.
And the track network group as well.
Yeah.
Well, just like we cut old hard here, but they probably keep most of the staff they've already got.
Yeah.
So it'll be just basically a name change, I suggest, wouldn't it? Yeah, so most of the staff that are already in Rangiora will still go with it, so we'll know them already.
Although it is worth remembering that Ryanair interests are predominantly American and Rohatyn are predominantly European, so it may be advantageous to us in the present economic climate.
Yeah.
The ownership.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know where I'd rather be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correspond. Yeah.
Thank you for that information, Tom.
Okay, so that's,
Is that
in terms of the anniversary, that's where we're up to. So we'll just keep on working on each of those to people and building the project as we go. I bet you do. We'll keep you involved, Mike, you know, and everywhere, each way.
Okay, so item 9, the possibility of a wheelchair ramp up onto the Monaco Hill. We had an email discussion and pretty much decided that what was pictured there wasn't going to be doable. So,
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Given the 1 and 12 slope, have we got it all the way up at this stage to that point
From the bottom.
from the bottom?
Oh, no, you never get a wheelchair up, yeah.
No.
no,
Why are we
looking at 1 and 12?
Well, I think the last discussion was that we know you can't get up in a wheelchair.
That's what I
But
understand.
we're not saying that, and I brought that up. You've seen motorised wheelchairs already that are potting around. You're going to see more advanced ones of those in time that will probably get up there. So, but you don't need 1 and 12 for that. You just need a ramp. And you've got to get rid of the steps at the top. It doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to get them up the steps. And at the moment, to get it, if you see mum and dad pushing the kids up in a pram, she's pretty hard work carrying the prams up there. That's why in time a ramp would solve that.
And that was my understanding, was a ramp, but it didn't have to be a 1 and
No.
12.
That's what I reckon too.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have to follow the 1 and 12, do
No, we don't.
There was, I thought, a good plan for a ramp going up the rocks on the north side.
Not going up there.
No, we talked about that and said no, but we looked at the straight ramp in this position, but didn't need to be a wheelchair one.
No, it's just a ramp.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
remind me why the one going up the rocks isn't going to work.
you got national endangered species of them.
You got those lizards.
Yeah.
You're never going to get up.
We did discuss this
Long time
a
ago.
long time ago.
I do remember the discussion, but
But see, the advantage of it with that, and even if you put one in there, it's going to be a tight zigzag. Whereas if you go a ramp up there, especially if you use rather large boulders to build it up with a big rock at the end, you'd come up to there then you'd hang a right, you'd take out those steps and concrete that up and come in nicely. So you push perm straight up and come down.
So that design's not as unachievable. We just leave the project on the table for a better solution.
Yes, that is achievable, but not for wheelchair.
Yeah.
If we don't want wheelchairs, then you can't get there to start with.
Yeah.
So it'll still work, but we just leave it where it is at the moment, right?
How were we going to pay for that? Can't remember. Oh, we'll just leave that one on the table. Okay. Okay, and review items, anyone need to discuss any of those?
How's the inventory of council buildings in Hanmer going? At number 2. On page 33.
Pull back, which need form part of the maintenance programs and long-term plan on council buildings, but we're doing a wider project on all council property as well, an inventory, which has turned up 2 new buildings, which didn't previously get listed.
Here in Hanmer?
No.
Thank goodness for that.
I don't know, could have been valuable.
Yeah, we'd have known about them. Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you want to know about the inventory program? It's ongoing.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering about the timing of it, where we're up to.
Yeah.
Any more update?
No, but eventually we will be able to produce you a list of all the property and buildings. I think, you know how long that program's going to run, Jack? Do you recall how long that inventory program's going to run? Discussed it the other day.
This is the Huranui Doomsday Book.
Yeah,
Yay.
it's about 450 properties, so it's going to take a while.
Okay. All right, no, I was just curious if there was a date on it, thank you. If there's not, that's fine, I'll ask again.
So those condition inspections were done. On this year, and they were included.
Yes, we've had an update, yeah,
Yeah.
I just,
But I mean, this is, doesn't fall that year. Right?
Yeah. I just want to do a bit more updates, I was asking.
No more updates, yeah.
No more updates on the update. Thank you.
Long-term plan matters, any discussion required there?
I think we did that.
Yeah.
Just going back to that one, page, number 5. We asked about the Hanmer River Reserve and that Freedom Camping area where it's really messy down around there. And the Tourism Infrastructure Fund had closed for 2023, but you know, time's moved on. Is there an opportunity somewhere to reapply?
Not sure what. What's profile to be, but sure it's in there.
We have a look.
So do we need to move that we ask the council to have a look? Thank you.
Well, we did move out there to deal with some of the minor issues.
Yeah. Messy.
Have you been down to have a look at those? What's being done?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I keep an eye on it.
Okay.
Ask you a question about number 10 on that, sorry. That says, in November, new equipment to install Chisholm Reserve. Do we know when that actual is. That was that useful sensory playground equipment at the $50,000 for. Still not there.
Item 10.
Yeah, item 10.
Can we have an update on that? That's page 35, item 10.
Is that the more accessible equipment? Of it?
Yeah.
Yes, sensory equipment for people with disabilities.
Is that not the one that came back as being too expensive?
No, I don't think.
I think there was something that we weren't able to do, but there was still some that we were going to implement, I believe.
I thought it was going to be progressive, that some would be altered to accommodate, and it's not all going to happen at the same time. Is that the way you saw it?
Yeah, I thought something that we'd discussed wasn't going to be practical, because I think we had a letter from someone.
Yeah, the ramps,
Yeah.
the ramps weren't possible.
And-
There wasn't enough room for
Yeah,
ramps.
but we were
That's
still.
why we went over to the sensory to
Yeah.
provide other facilities. Yeah.
Yeah, so an update on that would be good. Okey doke.
I won't really mention number 12. but,
Urgent
you know,
business.
we're going
Can we go back to your item for urgent business?
Oh, yeah, just, I just felt that we should be in touch with Waka Kotahi about State Highway 7 and the 7A junction and the bridge. And, their director of regional relationships, who's in charge of Waka Kotahi for the whole of the South Island, except for Nelson, is coming to our next meeting.
He's coming to,
He's coming to our next meeting.
oh, he's coming to our next.
And I have invited him to perhaps meet a couple of the members and to go on a quick tour first, in the morning, so that we can actually physically show them the issues rather than sit here and look at it on a plan. If he can spare us an hour, we can drive up and down and have a cup of coffee and then come into the meeting, which I thought would be rather helpful.
If that's in relation to those one and more items that we were talking about. And anything else that we in our road and
Well,
here and
we can point out as well the potential danger of all those willow trees and decorating that bridge would be an amazing. If we could persuade them to do something with the bridge.
Yeah.
It just looks so rough now.
Yes. So the resurfacing they didn't take there.
And that's already coming apart.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think you've told for all that, but we can be decision on that. That's because I suspect that we'll have implications of the national, LTP, from a funding perspective. I sit on that committee on behalf, so yeah, if it was something that might need to be advocated at the regional transport level, particularly in regard to funding, thinking about the issues with the road accidents, if it suited, I'd have it sit, if it was felt comfortable from your perspective.
Oh, I think just getting them around the table in the first instance, but we wouldn't have any authority, let alone any finance to be able to do something like that. But if we can actually just draw their attention to it and get them focusing on that.
I mean, it's going to be a long-term thing. It's not
Oh, yeah.
in a hurry.
But if it needed speaking to on behalf of the regional transport committee, be the voice to back.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, Murray might like to come for a drive with us with the guy.
Yeah, just let me know. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
I invited.
Gives me the.
Yourself.
I can't drive that bit of road now without thinking, someone's going to come around the corner on the wrong side.
I know, I keep thinking about that.
Well, actually, I was thinking, Alice, you could drive.
Yes.
Because you know the area so well and you know all the ins and outs and the intricacies.
Yes, I can drive it at 100 Ks and it brasses me off that I can drive every corner at 100 Ks and it brasses me off that they cut me back to 80.
Yes, but just because you can do something
I
doesn't
know.
say that everybody else can.
And when the
And it's obvious
weather
that-
conditions aren't right, you shouldn't do it anyway.
But it's obvious that there's a significant, but small proportion of people that can't drive them even at 80.
No, that's right. Well, I mean, that shows in the statistics, so.
So I think we're moving on to that discussion paper now. If people are drunk and stoned and are looking, texting at the same time. So we draw the meeting to the close. So with that, I'm going to draw this meeting to a close and we have a discussion about governance.
Not having any afternoon tea.
Had a cup of tea, I didn't bring any food, I'm sorry. Running late.
No,